Well, it's pretty abysmal and quite dangerous. First of all, Mr. Arafat may be killed. The report we just heard talked about the possibility of people being extracted from his office, from his immediate environment. There probably would be resistance to that. If he is killed, Mr. Sharon can then claim it was an accident. Secondly, the whole thing is degenerating into more widespread violence between the Palestinians and the Israelis, and that's deplorable. Thirdly, I think Israel's international position is very badly damaged. A country which started off as a symbol of recovery of the people who were greatly persecuted now looks like a country that's persecuting people, and that's very bad.
Do you think this could spin out of control?
Well, it could spin out of control, and in the meantime, the United States and Israel are increasingly isolated internationally. This could hurt our ability to conduct the war on terrorism. And last but not least, and this worries me a great deal, I think the Palestinians are being turned, largely by Mr. Sharon, into something like the Algerians. People absolutely determined to wage urban guerrilla warfare brutally, ruthlessly, at any cost, at enormous self-sacrifice. And the Israelis are becoming increasingly like the white supremacist South Africans, viewing the Palestinians as a lower form of life, not hesitating to kill a great many of them, and justifying this on the grounds that they are being the objects of terrorism, which is true. But the reactions are all out of proportion. And all of that, I think, is a very sad spectacle, and ultimately a spectacle of failure of American strategy.
Do you think this is going to work, this incursion by Sharon's government?
Well, this incursion by the Sharon government reminds me very much of Mr. Sharon's operation in Lebanon, in which he first of all misled his prime minister.
In
1982, by defining the objective in a rather different way from his real intention and actual conduct. It seems to me that when we look at this problem, we have to look at the totality of it. There's loss of human life. But you cannot define the loss of human life only in terms of the number of Israelis killed by brutal, savage, inexcusable Palestinian terror. And it does take place. The fact of the matter is that 3 times as many Palestinians have been killed, and a relatively small number of them were really militants. Most were civilians. Some hundreds were children. Now, this can be called collateral damage. Maybe it can even be ignored. But that, in a way, symbolizes the problem, that one side feels that only its victims are victims, and the other side feels the same way. Now, if we're going to move towards a solution of this problem, we have to think of it as a political problem which cannot be solved unilaterally by one side alone. The fact of the matter is that in the course of the last year, we have had Palestinian terrorism, but we have also had deliberate overreactions by Mr. Sharon, designed not to repress terrorism, but to destabilize the Palestinian Authority, to uproot the Oslo Agreement, which he has always denounced, in a manner which contributed to the climate that resulted in the killing of one of the 2 architects of the Oslo Agreement. I have in mind Prime Minister Rabin. And therefore, we're dealing here with a political strategy which has been designed for a full year to disrupt and undo the Oslo process. And unless the United States steps in, not only just with the procedural proposal of the Tenet plan and the semi-procedural proposal of the Mitchell plan, but with a concept and a vision of peace, somewhat along the lines that Henry outlined as the outcome, the situation is going to get worse and worse.
All right, but so you're talking about not just having the U.S. push for a ceasefire, which is essentially the Tenet plan, but at the same time, even while violence is going on, to be talking about or presenting or advocating a larger political settlement?
Absolutely, absolutely, because if we don't do that, then we make the so-called ceasefire a hostage to any one terrorism. And it's absolute hypocrisy to be claiming that Arafat can put a stop to that terrorism. And it's, let's put it mildly, poor information on the part of the president to be maintaining that. This guy is sitting isolated Sharon is trying to repress the Palestinians, and terrorism's not stopping. How is Arafat supposed to put a stop to it? Yes, he probably has been evasive. He probably has been winking. But the fact of the matter is that his ability to control the situation would be greatly increased if there was serious movement towards political process, towards a political settlement, and if the United States took the lead.